Today's story is about a man named Daniel whose life completely changed after one unexpected phone call exposed a shocking truth and turned his peaceful life upside down. Daniel had already been through a painful past. 5 years ago, he ended a toxic relationship with his ex-girlfriend Melissa. The relationship had slowly destroyed his peace of mind. At first she seemed loving and caring, but over time she became controlling, emotional, and unpredictable. Every small issue turned into an argument, and Daniel always ended up being blamed no matter what happened. He tried to fix things many times, but nothing ever worked, so eventually he made the hardest decision of his life and walked away. After the breakup, Daniel cut all contact with her completely. He blocked her number, avoided all connections, and focused on rebuilding his life from scratch. Slowly things started improving. He got a stable job, worked hard, earned promotions, and eventually reached a point where he was financially secure. He had his own apartment, a car, and a peaceful routine. Life finally felt normal again. But that peace did not last forever. One afternoon, while leaving work, Daniel received a call from an unknown number. Normally he would ignore it, but something made him answer. On the other side of the line, he heard a voice he immediately recognized. It was Melissa. After 5 long years, she had suddenly reappeared in his life. Daniel was shocked and confused and immediately asked her what she wanted. Melissa refused to explain over the phone and insisted that they meet in person because it was something very important. Against his better judgment, Daniel agreed. The next day, he arrived at a small cafe. The moment he walked inside, he froze. Melissa was already there, but she was not alone. A small boy, around 5 years old, was sitting next to her. Daniel immediately felt uneasy because the timing seemed strange. Melissa looked at him calmly and told him that the child was his son. For a few seconds, Daniel could not speak. He kept looking at the child and trying to understand what she had just said. The age of the child matched the time since their breakup, which made the situation even more confusing. But something about Melissa's behavior felt off. Instead of showing emotion or talking about family, she immediately started talking about financial responsibility and expenses. That was the moment Daniel became suspicious. He told her clearly that if the child was really his, he was ready to take responsibility, but only after a DNA test. As soon as he said this, Melissa's attitude changed. She became defensive and angry and said he was insulting her by not trusting her word. But Daniel stayed firm because he wanted the truth, not assumptions. And that decision would soon open the door to a much bigger and darker truth than he expected. After that meeting, Daniel thought the situation would be solved quickly with a DNA test. But he was completely wrong. Melissa kept delaying it again and again. Every time Daniel asked for the test, she came up with a new excuse. Sometimes she said the child was sick. Sometimes she said she was too busy, and sometimes she simply ignored his messages. The behavior made Daniel even more suspicious, because if someone is truly confident about the truth, they don't avoid proof. Meanwhile, things started getting worse outside that one conversation. Melissa didn't stay silent. She started contacting people from Daniel's life. Old friends, distant relatives, and even some coworkers suddenly began receiving messages from her. In those messages, she claimed Daniel was refusing to take responsibility for his child and that he had abandoned them. Slowly, people who didn't even know the full story started forming opinions against him. The most painful part was that his own family started getting influenced. His sister, Rachel, was the first one to turn against him. Without asking for full details or evidence, she immediately believed Melissa's version of the story. When Daniel tried to explain that a DNA test was still pending, she refused to listen. She said that a real man should not demand proof and should accept responsibility. Her words shocked Daniel because instead of supporting him, she was judging him based on emotions and assumptions. The situation became even more tense when his mother also started reacting differently. At first, she tried to stay neutral, but slowly she began leaning toward Melissa's side. She kept saying things like the child should not suffer and that Daniel should at least help financially until everything was clear. Daniel felt completely alone because the people he expected to stand by him were slowly turning against him without even knowing the truth. Despite all this pressure, Daniel insisted on the DNA test. After weeks of arguments and emotional stress, Melissa finally agreed. The test was done, and Daniel waited for the results with a heavy mind. He was nervous, not because he believed he was guilty, but because of how much damage this situation had already caused to his life and reputation. Finally, the results arrived. When Daniel opened the report, his hands were shaking. He read it once, then again to make sure there was no misunderstanding. The result was clear. He was not the biological father of the child. For a moment, he just sat there in silence. A strange mix of relief and anger hit him at the same time. Relief because the truth was finally out, and anger because so many people had already judged him and attacked him without waiting for this moment. When Melissa heard the result, her reaction was not what Daniel expected. Instead of feeling ashamed or apologizing, she became emotional for a completely different reason. She started talking about financial struggles and how difficult her life had become. It became clear to Daniel that the focus was never the child or the truth. It was always about money. And that was the moment Daniel realized this situation was far from over. In fact, it was about to get even worse. After the DNA results came out and the truth was finally revealed, Daniel thought things would slowly calm down. But instead, the situation became even more chaotic. Melissa refused to accept the full responsibility of what she had done. Even though she knew the child was not Daniel's, she continued to emotionally pressure him and tried to convince others that he still owed her something. She claimed that she had suffered for years and that Daniel should still help her in some way. But Daniel had already seen the truth clearly. This was never about responsibility or family. It was always about money and control. At the same time, the damage to Daniel's reputation had already spread. Some people who had believed Melissa's story earlier were now confused, while others refused to accept the truth even after seeing the DNA report. The emotional damage had already been done. His workplace situation also became stressful because unnecessary drama had reached his professional life. Although he explained everything to his management and showed proof, he still felt the pressure of being judged unfairly by people who didn't know the full story. Daniel finally decided that he would not stay silent anymore. With the help of a lawyer friend, he started collecting everything from the beginning. Messages, recordings, screenshots, and false public posts that were made against him were all documented carefully. A legal notice was prepared for defamation and harassment. The goal was not revenge, but protection of his name and his life, because things had already gone too far. When Melissa received the legal notice, her confidence completely broke. The same person who was demanding money and trying to control the situation suddenly started calling and apologizing repeatedly. She begged Daniel to drop everything and said she would take back all her accusations. But by that point, Daniel was no longer emotionally confused. He simply wanted the truth to be respected and the false damage to be corrected. After everything was over, Daniel's life slowly began to settle again. But this time, he was not the same person anymore. The experience had changed him deeply. He had learned how quickly people can judge without knowing the full story, and how easily emotions can influence decisions. He also learned that sometimes even the closest people can misunderstand you, but that doesn't always mean they are your enemies forever. Instead of cutting everyone off, Daniel chose a different path. He focused on rebuilding trust step by step. He stayed in touch with his family but kept healthy boundaries. He allowed time to heal the damage instead of forcing instant forgiveness. Over time, things became more stable. His relationship with his sister slowly improved as she consistently showed regret and understanding. His bond with his family, although not perfect, became stronger through honesty and communication. Daniel also learned an important lesson from the entire experience. Not every accusation deserves an immediate reaction, and not every emotional claim should be accepted without proof. At the same time, he realized that holding anger forever only keeps a person stuck in the past. True strength is not just standing up for yourself, but also knowing when to let go of bitterness and move forward with wisdom. In the end, Daniel did not walk away from his family. Instead, he chose understanding over hatred and patience over revenge. The situation had tested him emotionally, mentally, and socially, but it also made him stronger in ways he never expected. Sometimes life brings situations that break trust, create distance, and test relationships in the hardest way possible. But with time, truth, patience, and communication, even broken bonds can be repaired. Moral lesson of the story: always verify the truth before making judgments. False assumptions can destroy reputations and relationships. At the same time, forgiveness and understanding can heal what anger and misunderstanding have broken. Life is not only about proving who is right, but also about learning how to move forward without losing the people who truly matter. Advice: never let emotions make decisions for you. Always look for facts, stay calm under pressure, and give time for truth to reveal itself. And when mistakes happen, don't be too quick to destroy relationships that can still be repaired with effort and honesty. Question for you: if you were in Daniel's place, would you have forgiven your family and moved on slowly, or would you have cut everyone off completely after such a betrayal?